Okay, so let's see. Currently we have, all right, currently we've got, let's take a look, well, let's look. We've got Thursday, we've got today, we've got next Thursday's lecture, we've got Tuesday, and we've got the 5th after we get back, and I think that's it. So I think we've got 4 more classes, believe it or not. We've got basically 2 more weeks of classes, including this one. Yeah, way. Because you've got this week, you've got the break next week, you've got the week after that, and then we've got we got the week after the break, and then you've got the hanging Monday, and then finals start. So I will start planning on getting you ready for the final exam starting, I guess on Thursday. And I'll start going over things with regards to the final exam. So a couple things. The final exam and exam 3 will probably be very similar in terms of what will get covered. Probably more of an emphasis on regular expressions on the on exam 3. I do plan exam 3 to be very similar to that. So let's see. But again, I'll figure that out as we get there. The one thing I do want to bring up for the final project is if we go to Canvas, right, you will have a progress report. If you have not met with me or sent me an email to get approval for your idea, you need to do so ASAP, right? Okay, got to do so ASAP if you did not get approved by me. Modules, right? And as long as somebody has submitted your proposal, your pre-proposal, and your proposal, right? If you forgot to, but somebody else in your group did, it will get sorted out in the end. You'll probably freak out because I'll put in the 0 because I don't see anything there. And then you'll send me an email and you'll be like, but somebody else in my group did this. And I'm like, gonna be like, great, okay, I can fill that in now. So don't freak out if that's the case. Okay, let's see. So the progress report, yeah, that's in the middle of spring break. Sorry, in the winter break. So that's not going to work, is it? Edit. I mean, could I make it due during the break? I mean, that would be mean, but I'm not gonna. I'm just wondering, am I actually able? Is there a school rule that prevents professors from putting things in due dates in for a break? Like I said, I'm not gonna. I just want to know. So I'll make the progress report due December 2nd. Okay? December 2nd. And what is the progress report? Very simple. It's another markdown file to complete that basically says, if things have gone wrong, how have they gone wrong? If things have gone right, how have they gone right? Right, that's basically it. So this is the, right, your name, project title, short answers, what have you done so far, what have you not done so far, what's going on. This is just basically, it also serves as a reminder of, hey, you've got a final project to do, you should do that, right? So anyway, enough about that. Since time is now pressing and Tempest is fugiting, we should probably get into our remaining exercises. Right? So I plan on doing 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in this, and then I'll go over, I'll start going over some of the content that you can expect on the final exam and exam 3. Specifically, how in the world do we actually do the substitution thing? Yes, you had a question.
Did we get to 5? Or?
We did 5. That was Q not followed by U, and we had a lot of issues with Iraq and Qatar. And we weren't really able to get them with a single regex. Yeah. The code for that, yes. And I will post the code later. Question 5 was, here's question 5 for that. Right? So this was any number of letters, right? A word, any number of letters, followed by a Q, and then an end of line symbol. And then this was any number of letters followed by a Q, that's followed by anything that isn't a U, followed by anything that isn't a U, and any number of letters over there. Okay? Okay. So let's go ahead and see what is our last. Now I think we start messing with vowels. Okay. How many words have no vowels? Okay. How many words have no vowels? So let's go ahead and just remind ourselves how to do this by following it. So we're going to take in, I'll take in def question 6, file name. Okay, what do we need to do here? So first off, I like to start, you can either start by reading the file or or doing the pattern. I'll switch it around and I'll start by opening the file this time. We'll open our file by saying open file name. Now, in reality, if we knew we were going to be opening this file multiple times, it would just made sense to open it once. But again, the reason I'm putting it in this format is because on your exam, right, a lot of times you'll have to read the file. So I want to make sure, okay, you recognize this is how I use the .read function and where I use it. Yes?
You said we were learning regex and extra. Is regex going to be on the final?
It will be. So here's the thing about the final exam, okay? The thing about the final exam is, yes, regex will be on the final, but the final is, I'll give you a choice of questions to do. It'll be something along the line, I haven't decided whether you're going to whether the entire exam is going to be 7 questions, choose 5 of them, of which regex would be one of them. So if you didn't want to do regex and didn't study it, you don't have to. But as you'll see today, the kind of question I'll ask for regular expressions is actually quite easy. And if you remember to do, the pattern, doing the pattern is the hardest part of it. But as long as you keep your head and watch the notes, and keep track of the notes, you'll figure it out. So it's either going to be 5. Choose 5 of 7, okay, of your choice. And I like that because it allows students to play to their strength. Or I might give you a few shorter mandatory questions, and then like give you here's 4 questions, choose 6, or something like that. Sorry, no, here's 6 questions, choose 4. No, you got to do 4 questions, and you got to do 2 of them twice, or one of them 3 times. All right, so what we'll do is we'll do text is equal to data.read. But don't worry, again, you're going to see, I've told you what kind of question I like. Like, here's a file with all the Social Security numbers. Give me a new file with all the Social Security numbers redacted. We're going to see how easy that is to do today. Okay, so read. And so now what we want to do is we want to find how many words have no vowels in them. So how do we do that? Right. What in the world is that not? Why is that not doing that? Why is that just simply? Okay, I'm going to minimize this. I don't need this anymore. So yeah, and how many words have no vowels, and then how many words are only vowels? So so this one is pattern, right? So we open our file, and then we need to do our pattern because we're going to do find all. Okay. And so our pattern is, and again, we like to do R for raw string, but remember, we only really use this for regular expressions. If you forget this on the exam, so what? I'm not going to care. It's not what I'm testing. What I'm testing is the pattern itself. That's what I care about. Okay? So because it's one of those things that if it goes wrong, you'll remember, oh, right, it's R for regular expression. It feels like a real cop-out to try to take away points for that. So we want no vowels. So the way we do that is very simple. Create a character class. Let's list the vowels. A, E, I, O, U. Those are all the vowels. This says any of those vowels. And this says any number of those. Right? So this would be anything that's any number of vowels. Right? And in fact, this would be question 7. So let's go ahead and see. But to get the inverse of that, to say words that have anything but that, we'll do this symbol, the not symbol. Okay? Not A-E-I-O-U star. So at least 0 of these that are not vowels. And then what we got to do is, because we want to make sure we get I want it to be the entire line, right? The entire line to be beginning of line and end of line. Basically, between the beginning of line and the end of line, there's nothing but things that are not vowels, right? And because there shouldn't be any blank lines, either the star, which means at least 0 of the preceding, or the plus will work, which means at least 1 of. Either of those will work. So we go ahead and do results is equal to re.find all. Once again, find all, and then pattern, text, and then I'm going to just do re.ignore case again, because it's very useful for this one to just ignore case. Again, it's one of those things on the exam, but I'm not going to care about this part, whether you ignore case or all. Return results, and now we just simply swap out what question we're doing and run it. Okay. There we go. Oh, that is a lot of empty new line symbols. Interesting. So, okay. That is Q. So we have sky between new line. And why is this doing it like this? I want everything from beginning of the line, not an A-E-I-O-U. And at least one of those, and then we want to go to the end of the line, right? Should it probably, is it, and it shouldn't be, so we have this beginning, so why is it, so where are we grabbing the slash? We've got slyly, so where are all these slash ends coming from? Everything that's not a vowel. Like, because if question 7, everything that is a vowel, how many words are only vowels? Boundary. Why is that just the case there? Should be beginning of line to end of line. Should be a boundary character, right? Do I need white space character? /n. So grab that. So because I'm grabbing the boundary character. Let's see what happens if I just simply do. I mean, if I do this, it's going to grab every letter that is a vowel, everything that is not a vowel, right? Every short string, every string that we can get our hands on that is not a vowel, it says, right? And then what do I need to do? /s and /s instead. Yeah, that works because it gets the new lines in between them. Him. So we have Gwyn, Glenn, Fry, Lynn, and Lynx. So we almost get it, but it's that's the issue. It's not. We want it to be to the boundary. I feel like not a. How many words have no vowels? No vowels. So it's just a matter of getting them to split. Well, and sometimes then, if we're having issues like this, what should we do? Change our approach. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do the dumb way of doing this, I think. How am I going to do that? Oh, I'm going to hate this. Read lines. Or what we can do read, and then we can do text dot split, we can probably do. And let's go ahead and see what happens if I do. What happens if I do print text.split? Okay. Okay, it splits it just like I would hope. Great. So text is equal to text.split. Pattern, and now pattern is equal to And so now I'm going to use, so what I've done here is I've split it up because I just apparently am having trouble separating out all the lines with each other. So that's just not working. And rather than trying to work with the dead approach, I'm going to value our time and move on, which is, I'm going to do this. Pattern. I'm going to do, right, raw, not a vowel, A-E-E-I-O-U, or not a vowel. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do boundary. No, not boundary. We're going to do, I think it's, what is it for beginning of line? Byteline object. So let's see, what is this? Okay, regex, Python, docs, right? Boom, boom. Okay, question mark is preceding, greeting, modifier, match the start of the string, matches the end of the string. Okay, cool. So where did I mess up? Bring that find to all. All right, because I can't do that anymore in that one. So R. Okay, pattern, results. And then 4. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do results. I hate doing it like this, but I am just simply going quickly. Gotta go fast sometimes. Results. Results equals plus 4 line in text. And let's see, does that work? Pattern. And now I'm going to do this on line and see what we get here. Beginning. So we do not get that. We get re.findAll. Beginning. So let's see. Normally it is. Okay. Here it matches the start of screen. Yeah, maybe I needed a different mode for this because I do this in different languages, and depending on what language it is, it can sometimes what we have here for the flag sometimes matters. Okay, let's just go do boundary like we were doing previously. Boundary to boundary, not oh right, because I forgot the plus symbol there. Boom. All right. So we had. Let's see. Some of these are weird. But otherwise, for most of them, we get what we need. We get fly, dry, cyst, crypt, bird, by, brin, glyn, gypsy, hymns, lymph, lynch, slyly, shyly, rhythms, rhythm, pygmy, psych, pry. We get a lot of ones, including sticks. Okay. We've got a lot of these now. We also have stuff like this. So let's see. Now that if I do this, will this work? Yes, there we go. That's all. That's everything we need now. So this symbol, so the caret by itself means beginning of string, and the $sign by itself means end of string. So I was having trouble separating these out because it kept grabbing new lines, and I wasn't sure why it was grabbing the new lines with the boundaries. Probably just has something to do with the way the file is set up. Possibly because also if I was getting boundaries, I was not getting the next part because it would overlap. So what I needed was, what I've done is I split this up into lines, and I've done, hey, let's get a caret, which is the beginning of the string. So I split it up into lines, and I said, let's get the beginning of the line, then find these, anything that's not a vowel to the end of the line. So the entire thing consists of not vowels. Okay. Similarly, we can then copy paste this and do. Let's go ahead and try this out. 7, and just simply do that, right, for anything that is a vowel. Okay. Anything that is a vowel. Oops. And 5. No, question 5. And then we've got, no, not question 5, question 7. IO. No? I feel like there's got to be more than AIOU. There's got to be more than just IO. All right, that's all vowels, right? No? I mean, like, what about A? Does it not? Well, no, it won't have that in the spell check dictionary because it's just a single letter. You don't need to spell check a single letter. Can anybody think of any other words that are made up of more than one vowel?
Audio.
What? Audio has a D in it. I'm talking about only vowels. Only vowels. No.
That's a good question.
IO is the only one that comes to mind. It's the only one I can think of in there.
AI.
I don't think that would necessarily be in a spell check dictionary. It would be, because that would be because that would be A dot I dot probably, at least in the dictionary file that I'm using. I honestly can't think of one. All right, moving on to question 8. How many words are contracted with not, meaning they end with apostrophe NT? This one we can go back to doing it the way we were doing it, which is doing it on the entire file. This one's actually fairly straightforward because we know what we're looking for. Specifically, what we're looking for is we open the file, we grab a pattern. Don't worry, I'll put this file on Discord when I'm done with it. So I just want to make sure, I'm moving fast because I want to make sure I get plenty of time to cover what you need.
We're on 7 now.
8. Because 7 was just simply, because if you notice what's the difference between 6 and 7, it's the not symbol. Okay. Question 8. So what we do over here with question 8 is we've got pattern data, text is equal to data.read, pattern. This one's fairly straightforward. What we want is we want the entirety of the word, all the word characters, and then what we want is I want to find out if it ends with the contraction of int, so not, which is like doesn't, right? So let's see. Single quote NT. Should that work? Well, it says IO again because, of course, I didn't switch this 7 to an 8. Okay, did I mean pattern? Yes, I did because I copy-pasted this. Pattern. No, there's definitely more of them that end with that. So do I need a slash quote? Because if we look at this, I can do Control F, apostrophe NT. Ooh, does that not find it? Do we not have any in here? Okay. Okay, let's look for one that I know that should exist, which is did I have it? Let's see, does. So does, oh, right. Okay. Right, I have it wrong. But I'm surprised. Doesn't isn't in here. Right? So perhaps this file does not have contractions in it. Right? Is that what it looks like to you? I don't see any contractions in here. So the file did have contractions. Well, first off, I wrote it down wrong in the PDF. Right? Contractions would be N apostrophe T, right? So we want to do N apostrophe T. And it gets 0, and I assume that's just because there aren't any contractions in the file. Control N. Yeah, there are just not any contractions in the file. Oh well. Still, that one's still a straightforward one to write. The next one I find a bit funner, or more fun, I guess. How many words sorry, how many words with 2 vowels in a row are there? All right, so let's look at this one. How do we get something with 2 vowels in a row? Question 9. So first off, we open the file, we read it, we go to our pattern. We know that the base of our pattern is going to involve 2 vowels in a row. We know how to write a character class that says, sorry, a character, not class, but our own custom category that says I want only vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Yep. And we know how to do 2, and we can say 2 in a row of these guys by doing A, E, I, O, U and just simply copying, pasting, pasting, gesundheit. So we've got copy, paste, paste, right? Do 2 in a row like this. Or we can make it a little bit less messy and do 2, like this. And I feel like that's hard to see. Is this hard to read when I'm working on a line? Let's see. There we go. No, that's worse. Okay. Let's see. Better? Or is white better? White is better. Great. Okay. All right. So we've got A, I, O, U. We've got 2 in a row. And of course, if we run this, we're just going to get anything that has 2 vowels in a row. So there's 15 occurrences of 2 vowels in a row, but that doesn't necessarily mean there is, and did I ask, with 2 vowels in a row? 2 vowels in a row. Okay? So how do we figure that out? Well, 2 vowels in a row, followed by any number of characters, and also any number of characters. Let's see what that gets us. Zoologically, Zion, Yugoslavians, youth, youngly, yeomen, yearned, Yankees, wreath, racks, wraparound, Xavier, wood, woo, wooden, woodenly. So this appears to have worked just fine, right? Any number of letters, grab as many letters as you can until we hit 2 vowels, and then grab as many letters as you can after that, right? That's what that regular expression says. And so for that, we get, and so let me just see. For that, we get 1457. Now, my question is, what about 3 vowels in a row? How many words have 3 value? Virtuous, wooed, wooer, wooing, unambiguous. And I would argue that vowels that have 3 in a row have 2 in a row. I wasn't saying exactly 2. All right. Now, let's see, now for the last question. How many words have at least 2 vowels, with at least 2 vowels are there? The vowels need not be adjacent like in the previous problem. Okay? So this one, we're going to copy paste again because, again, a lot of these just are very straightforward to do. Now, these are very abstract problems, and we're going to work on very concrete problems, I feel, in just a second. So, /W. So what we've got here is we need 2 vowels. A, I, O, U. And they don't have to be adjacent, which means they can be separated by as many or as few characters as we need, right? As many or as few letters as we need, right? Right? And I'm going to use A to Z instead here instead of any character. So A to Z, star. So I'm going to finish writing this and then I'm going to explain it. So something with at least 2 vowels in it will be of this format. any number of vowels, sorry, any number of letters, right, A to Z, or I could have done /W, but /W would get numbers as well, but it's also not something we have to really worry about with this file. Any number of letters until we hit a vowel. We're going to hit a vowel. And then we're going to hit another vowel at some point, and in between those two vowels are going to be any number of additional letters, which could also be vowels, right? And then we have any number of letters as well after that, which could also be vowels, right? We need at least two vowels in it. So if we run this, we get 41,000, and we get things like Zeal, Zealand, we have Yuki, we have Wrapped, right? That has two vowels. Any number of letters, followed by a vowel, followed by any number of letters, followed by a vowel, followed by any number of letters. Make sense? Okay. Save. Save this file. Oh, right, I messed up, but only this way. I defined the same function twice, which meant that we did this twice. There we go. And then, there we go, 10. We redefined that twice. Yes. So that is it, I think, for the in-class exercise. I will send this out, I'm going to go ahead and send this out since I'm here, I'm going to just send it out as an announcement. That way I don't have to log into Discord and stuff. Boop, boop, add announcement. There you go. That way you don't have to frantically try to copy it down. Okay? But I would prefer to see what you have on your own for your own work. It's here kind of as a reference for you. Now, let's talk about what kind of questions are going to be on the exam. Let me pause my recording for a second. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and start, and I'm going to start a new file here. Let's go ahead and create specifically I'm going to create two files. I'm going to create a text file, which I'm going to call our input. I'm just going to call this input.txt. And I'm going to just simply put it here with what we need. So this is an example of what would be on what kind of questions we would get on an exam. My social security number is 123-45-6789. My kid's social security number is 123-45-6788, which is weird. I thought it would be, you can be whatever text you want so long as it has a social security number in it. Got it? Right? Well, a fake social security number. I thought it'd be 123-456-790. Okay, and otherwise it doesn't matter. I've just done 3 lines here because I can. Save it. Great. It's saved. Okay. Obviously, don't put social security numbers here. And the question on the exam and on the final that I typically ask is, here's a file that has some information I would like redacted in some way, shape, or form. Okay? Some years has been health information. Some years has been telephone numbers. Some years it has been email addresses. Email addresses are what I'm going to do is what I'm going to go over in a bit. Okay? But the goal is given a file that has information private information I would like to remove that's in this pattern, right? Be it a social security number, telephone number, email address. Write a program to create a new file with that information removed. Save it in output.txt. So, doesn't matter what the problem is. all the lines of the problem are going to be the same except the pattern. So except for the pattern, the regular expression that you're trying to write. So this kind of question should not necessarily throw you through too much of a loop, right? So let's go ahead and now write our code, which is regex exam practice or whatever. It just needs to have a memorable name. So we're going to need to import RE to use the regular expression library. Oh, and I need to save it as a Python file. Save as d.py. That's only because I'm doing this. Okay, in here. So import.re. Def exam regex question, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Or exam regex question 1. And typically what I'll give you as a lead is to give you this. I'll say input file, let's see, or let's say file 1, file 2, right? Or let's, actually no, even better name, in file, out file, right? For your input and your output. Okay? So the first thing we need to do is, if we're going to start, if we want to try to modify this file, right, we need to read it, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Open, in file, right? Read, and that will be stored as our data. And then what we'll do is we'll do what we always do. We'll do text is this time. In most of these cases, we want to read the entire file. So we'll do text is equal to data.read, just like this, just like we've seen in the past, right? Data is equal to text is equal to data.read. Okay. Then the next step is modify text to have all the all the target information removed, right? I'll simply put that as a to-do, and I'm going to come back to that, right? Okay? Because I want to get this formulaic part out of the way with all the stuff you've seen before, because this part is not going to change no matter what the question is for regular expression, for the substitution, as it's called, for regular expression, okay? This is going to always be the same, which is we read the file, we get the text, we modify that text, and then we open up a file so that we can output it, right? And how do you output to a file? You read a file to read it in, you output by writing. You read and you write, right? We've seen this before, we just really haven't used it that much. And maybe we'll call this our, and we'll call this maybe out data or whatnot, okay? Right? Or maybe we'll call it maybe our, ooh, even better. No, we'll call it new file. There we go. New file. We want to write to a new file, right? So I'm going to call it new file. So this gives it, this is the path, by the way, right? This is the strings we take in that are the file paths. And you just don't call them file paths because that would have been long. So out, file, write. So 4. And then all we have to do to make sure that the file is written is we do, this is it, new file dot write text to, right, we are modifying this. We're going to modify this, right? And so this is one big string, and so we just write this, we dump this entire string to the text file, however big or small it is. And then the last part, which is we technically need this to just simply say we're done with writing, so please actually save all the changes. New file.close. That's it. So these 5 lines are always going to be the same. It's always going to be these things at the top, these things at the bottom, right, for this kind of question. Where, yep, and this question is remove, you know, and I'm just paraphrasing here, remove all regex from file sorry, remove all SS nums from file, put result in new file, right? That's what we're doing. So how do we change this? Well, as it happens, it's very, 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 very similar to what we did with re.findAll, which is why we've been doing re.findAll. Because, okay. So rather than doing, that's the reason I've been doing re.findAll, because what we're going to do is we're going to use a new thing. We're going to do pattern is equal to, so just like we did for re.findAll, regular expression.findAll, we do r, here's what our regular expression is going to be, right? And then we do one line instead of re. It's just this instead of re.findAll. It's text is equal to re.sub. I think, wait, is it? Yeah, re.sub. re.sub, and that should take in, is it sub? I'm going to double check, but it should be that simple, right? Like, it's just not auto-completing, so I'm suddenly very nervous. So re.sub, right? re.sub, sub. Yeah. Yep, it is re.sub. Great. Was very paranoid for a second. Okay, re.sub, which takes in a pattern. Then we want whatever we're going to replace it with, which I'll put in redacted over here. And then the target. That's it. So with findAll, so let's go back to findAll for a second. Okay? For findAll, what we did was pattern, text, and then we had an optional ignore case. We can throw that in on the end as well, okay, if we wanted to. In fact, I'll do so to make it symmetric, right? We don't care what the right? So what we've done is re.sub adds in one more argument between the pattern and the text. It's what re.sub says is I want anything that matches this pattern, I want to replace it in this. Sorry, with this. Where do I want to replace it? In this string. That's what this is saying. So we know that, so right now we're trying to do social security numbers. We know how to do social security numbers, which is we do 3 digits in a row, followed by a dash, followed by 2 digits in a row, followed by a dash, followed by 3 digits in a row. Sorry, 4 digits in a row. Right? Now there's a lot of power you can actually have here. You can like delete everything but like the first number. Like there's actually like some commands you can put in which are pretty cool. To say, hey, I want to, and that's useful if you're like removing names and you want to replace it with like and turn something from like, Mr. Anderson, something like from Thomas Anderson to suddenly be Mr. A. You can do that with this, which is pretty cool. Okay? But over here, we're keeping it simple, which is we are just going to do pattern is equal to this, matches the social security number. Then we say we are going to substitute anything that matches a social security number with redacted, right, with the brackets as well. We don't need the brackets, but if I put the brackets in, it will have the brackets too. The brackets aren't special. Okay, it's just text. And then we'll put it in the text. And then finally, we just call it. And so it will be input. So the file that I created for this was input.txt. And then I just say whatever I want, which is, I'm going to call it q1.txt for question 1, right? It probably won't be question 1 on the exam, but it doesn't really matter. I've run it, and it's not going to show that I did anything because I didn't tell it to print anything. So let's go to our files. Let's go to my code folder. And let's see, did it? Regex exam practice. out file. Do we have a Q1? I don't see a Q1. Darn. Okay. Let me go ahead and print. Am I running it? Let's double check to make sure it's running. It was not running. There we go. That's for the reason why it's not running. So, okay. Build. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. File not executed because right. There we go. So it says done. Okay, it just wasn't running the code. That was what's going on. And as you can see now, there's a q1.txt. Okay. And I open it up, and it says, my social security number is redacted. My kid's social security number is redacted. Now, why didn't it catch this one? I thought it would be 1, 2, 3. Did I mess something up here? Why does it catch those two, but not the other one? That's so interesting. Do I not, is it, let's take a look at the input. Which is weird. Boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. Does it matter that it's a 0? It shouldn't. That is so weird. All right. I'm having all sorts of weirdness happen today. Let's open up Q1 and see what's happened here. Yeah, okay. So in file, redacted, text.ignore case. So /digit, anything that matches this pattern, right? So if I do the first two, right, and if it, so look, if I do it like this, and run it, reload, it's going to grab this. So there's something wrong with what I wrote here. What's wrong with what I wrote over there? Reload. What's wrong with what I wrote over here? One, 2, 3 dash 4, 5 dash 9, 8, 7, 6. Oh well? Question mark? And reload. That is weird. Am I missing something over here? Am I not putting in enough numbers? Am I not putting in enough numbers? Or am I trying to write too much? No, that doesn't make sense. Let's see, does it matter? I honestly don't know. This is like literally the first. Oh, why is ignore case modifying that? That makes no sense, Python. Go home, you're drunk. All right, so reload. So there was nothing wrong with the pattern I wrote. Nothing wrong with the pattern I wrote. Okay. /d 4 /d4. So now, right, I don't know what was going on there, but there we go. Okay, as you can see, right, it's the same pattern that I was using at the beginning, and we see the input here and the output over here, right? And you see that it's been replaced with the brackets. If I change this to you know, instead be just without the brackets and just simply say deleted over here, we get it now says deleted, right? Make sense to everybody? Okay, so let's give you an example of a question that I've actually asked on a final exam before, okay? So the final exam, so one of the questions I've asked on a final exam is, given a document that has TU emails, remove the TU emails and keep everything else. Everything else, meaning, and the reason I specified everything else was that I didn't want you to just delete the whole file, which would have been technically correct had I not specified. Yes?
So, TU as in the ones that start with TU, or
I was gonna,
anything with a .edu?
I was gonna specify. And so a TU, so let's go ahead and go into this. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this, and it's very specific. So let's go ahead and see. So remove, sorry, no, remove, but redact all TU emails from a file and write result to a new file, right? I'm just simply putting this here for posterity, so when you go back and look at the notes, right, that's what it is. And what is a TU email? A TU email is of the following format, right? It's something like it's the emails that go TU, and then have numbers and then letters, right? So, for instance, here. So, for instance, here's my TU email, right? My TU email is tug85861 at temple.edu. I swear I know how to type. Okay, there we go. So TUX y, right, at temple.edu, where X is any letter and Y is any number. Make sense? That makes sense to anybody? To everybody? So it's always going to be a 5-digit number and a letter. Right? Which, if we do some quick math, that would be, there is 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. So 100,000 times 26 possible TU emails. So somewhere in the millions before they start having to figure out about this. However, so typically the way as this worked in the past, especially when I gave this exam electronically, is I would give you an input file as an example, and I'd give you an output file, and I say, hey, if your program matches the input and output, congratulations, we're good. Make sense? So let's go ahead and call this. I'll create a new file to kind of show you what a good example of this. So documents code. Okay, there we go. TU regex TUregex.txt. Right, I'm just making a txt file, calling it TUregex.txt, and I'll simply put some emails in here, right? And my TU email is tug85861 at temple.edu, but my alias is andrew.rosen at temple.edu. My personal email is profandrewrosen@gmail.com. As you can see, I don't really care about these necessarily being in the public, so to speak, because these are the emails I give out to people, right? And I'm just using mine because I don't want anybody else to, I don't want somebody to accidentally get spammed. I wish I had gotten TUT85858 at temple.edu, because that just seems very mini palindromic, right? You've got TUT and then you've got you've got two patterns in there. That seems nice, right? So the output file should remove this and remove this. Make sense? Okay. So once again, what we've got here is we've got exam question 2, right? In file and out file, just like this. Okay. And I'll call it over here. And you don't have to worry about calling the function in your exam, because all I'm asking you to do is write the function, right? I'm going to ask you to write the function. You don't need to call it. I just need to know if I called it, this is what I wanted, this is what it would call. So this would be TU Regex. And I'll call this Q2 because this is question 2, right? But this is a real question I've given on the exam, or the concept is the real question, right? I wrote it in a much more formalized manner on the exam, but here it is. So, and again, we want, the goal is here, if I give you, I would give you input and output pairs, where you make sure you keep you redact these, but keep this email and this email, right? Why? Because I don't want you to necessarily just simply try to grab anything that is a space followed by any number of letters at temple.edu, right? I don't want it to. So anyway, let's first write the parts that we know how to get. The rubric is typically as follows, which is that I give, if it's a 20-point question, I would give like 8 points for the pattern and then 12 points for making sure you know how to do everything else, which is how to do the substitution, how to do the input-output, which, and if you remember now, the input-output is always the same. It is always going to be open infile.txt. It's not infile.txt. Just open the infile and then do R to read it. Data.read, we've got this, and then text is equal to data.read. We've done this before. We've done it a lot now. We'll have pattern equals, and I'm going to leave that blank for now, right? But we know what we need to do, which is that we are given, is that we want to basically say our text is equal to, we don't even need to necessarily replace the text. We could do it like this as well. We could say new text is equal to re.sub, and then we use we say we want to take this pattern. Anywhere I find this pattern, I want to replace it with, and again, I'll tell you something. It could be redacted. It could be deleted. I'm just in favor of the bracket redacted because that makes it clear that that was probably something added. Pattern, redacted, and then what am I targeting? I'm targeting the text, right? I'm targeting this text and I'm generating new text. Then what am I going to do? I am going to say I want to write this to a new file. So new file is equal to open out file, write it instead of read it. Okay? And then and then I'm going to write what? New file.write, just the new text. That's all I need to do to take the entire string and just dump it into the output. New file.close. That's it, right? This is exactly the same as this part. This part is almost exactly the same, right, as this part. Right? The only difference I made is I changed the variable name because I felt like it. Okay? That's all that's going on. I just changed the variable name because I felt it like it, and the pattern is going to be different, right? That's it. So for these, so that's what I meant by these problems are very simple, okay, or very straightforward, I should say, because the regex isn't necessarily simple. But if we break it down, we can actually come up with something that we need to. Now, as far as I see it, an email address, because I've actually read the documentation for an email address, but anyway, the email addresses are a lot more complicated than you'd, a lot more flexible than you might give them credit for. For instance, just inside here, right, take a look at my, and it depends on the server, by the way. For instance, if you can send me an email to profandrewrosen@gmail.com. But did you know you could also do prof.andrew.rosen@gmail.com? Or if it so tickled you, you could do prof.andrew.r.o.sd.e.n@gmail.com. Gmail does not care how many periods you put into an email address. It does not. They're all the same. They all go to the same place. Furthermore, you can do this nifty thing. You can have a plus right here. And then you could do something like spam. So if you were signing up for a service and didn't want to, and were worried you were going to get spammed. Let's say I was signing up for Netflix. I could do this. And then I would know, okay, if Netflix sold my information to somebody, right, or maybe it was more likely some sketchy website, right? Some sketchy website, I could give them a unique identifier plus this, and then I would be able to see, oh, I'm getting an email from, they're sending it to this email. I guess this company sold my information to this mailing list, and that's why I'm getting the spam. So it allows you to kind of self-categorize this, and this goes exactly to, and this just simply goes to here. That's all it is. So emails can actually be fairly complicated, which is why I'm telling you actually to simply remove one thing, because a regex to remove any email address, one that works on any email, the best you can do is this one. Email address regular expression that works that 99.99% works. And it is email@regex.com, and it says if you need it, here it is. Just copy paste the email into the language of the regex into the language of choice, and here it is. And it barely looks like anything understandable anymore. I can tell you though that this part is everything before the @ symbol, and this part is for everything after the @ symbol. Like I said, regular expressions can be very there. And the one thing that the one thing that we know is that it's always going to have an @ symbol in the middle of it. So, and you kind of internally knew that email addresses are always going to have an @ in the middle. We can treat the @ in the middle. You didn't need to see this document to know that. And so why do I bring this up? Because we can think about solving this problem as solving two halves of a regex rather than one regex. Okay? What do I mean? Right? We know this email address is going to have an @ in it. So we need to do basically everything before, so we can solve this as two parts. Everything before the @ and everything after the @ rather than trying to do the whole thing at once. Okay? So let's look at let's do what I consider to be the easier part. Everything after the @ which is going to be @temple.edu. Every TU email is going to end with @temple.edu, which you just simply type out .edu. But wait, you remember, dot is special, right? Dot is a special character in regular expressions, right? Dot is the wildcard character. It means it can match anything. And don't take my word for it. You'll find it on the back. You can find that probably on the back of your sheet when I hand it out. So dot is any. So what we have to do in this case is we are going to do, and just remember the R for regular expression, /dot, right? To remember, okay, I literally want a dot here. Okay, and I went over that, I believe, when I mentioned that the symbol for regular expression is this, $, which means match everything. Yes, question?
// is our effective in regex, correct?
Backslashes are, I forget which one's a forward slash or a backslash. I think it's I think this one's a backslash because it leans backwards. I don't know. I just call them both slashes, and you figure out and let.
Are they interchangeable?
No, they are not interchangeable here. This slash over here, backslash, is always used as in programming. It's always used as an escape character, right? Always used as is like for escapes. Windows is weird because Unix uses forward slashes for paths, as you can see here, right? This is Unix. So so this applies for anybody using a Mac right now. This tilde is the symbol for meaning this user's home. So Andrew's home folder, inside his home folder, inside the document folder, inside the code folder. So it uses forward slashes. Windows is weird in that it uses backslashes. It's got to be different. Okay. So at temple.edu, so that's everything for afterwards. Now for everything before, we know that everything that we are going to do a T and a U, right? And then we have to have a letter. Now, if I put a /W here, that kind of sort of half works because a /W is letter or number, right? It's an alphanumeric. So if I want an actual letter to be as accurate as possible, I would say it's a TU email address starts with a T and a U followed by any letter, TU, any letter. And then I have 5 digits, right? 85861 in this case for me. So TU, letter, number, and then I could do five of those, but I can also just simply say I want 5. So TU, then a letter, and any 5 numbers. I would put basically a match here, basically to be as exact as possible, right? You don't want to necessarily, like if you did this, 1, 2, 3, here. Well, first I'll do this, and then I'll show you what I mean by be as exact as possible. Because there's a number of technically correct information that I would not give a full score to. So I run this. Let's go ahead and open question. Whoops. I just opened the same file. Let's go ahead and open there, and we see that this works. My TU email is redacted. I wish I had gotten redacted, but it kept the Andrew.Rosen because it doesn't start with TU. And Prof. Andrew Rosen because it doesn't start with the TU and it doesn't have the temple.edu. It doesn't match at all, right? So what I wouldn't want you to do is stuff like this, right? So I told you dot means any character, so TUG85861, right? This technically works. This technically works, right? Reload, because it's saying remove any character, 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 right? And TU, letter, and then 5 numbers are certain, all of those certainly qualify as any character. So what I probably would do is something like this. So 858585, so 85858 TUT at temple.edu, comma, but that is not a valid TU email, right? Right? That's not a valid TU email. So now that I put that in, right, I run it and we get, and it deletes that, but that's not TU email, so it shouldn't have been deleted. So on the other hand, doing our previous pattern, right, TU followed by a letter, followed by 5 digits. That's going to leave this alone because that's a volume, because that, so this is why I'll be giving, this is part of the reason I give you inputs and outputs, to make sure you understand, okay, I don't want you to overmatch, as we call it, right? Because technically because the other, oh, you want to remove all the emails from this file? Okay, that's easy. Pattern is equal to string dot star any character at least 0 of any character. Yeah, that's going to work. Run it, and then reload, and there you go. It deleted all the TU email addresses, right? What's she complaining about? And what it's doing here is just delete. It says any series of characters I can match. Not sure why it decided to break it up like that. Possibly because it hit a dot in each of those. But there you go. So that is the kind of question you'll get on the final exam. I'll try to make sure that, let me go ahead and add this to my calendar so I actually make sure to do this. So I can start working on the practice exam, because I want to make sure you have plenty of time for it, and for the practice exam and the final. Work on practice exam. 3:30. Sure, why not? So, again, this is the kind of question that you would so expect this kind of question on the final. Expect this kind of question on exam 3. On exam 3, though, you'll have some number of questions that might look along the lines of, like, let's see, do I have it? Practice. Let's see, do I have these kind of questions? Not this, there. For exam 3, did I not have some regex questions on here? I guess not. All right, that's part of the reason why I need to go back in. But expect some questions along the lines of what we did in class for matching words, right? Okay, let me go ahead and stop the recording. Have a great day, everybody.